Okay. Thank you all for attending. Tonight, Tuesday, March 3rd, our 2020. Not bad. Regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance budget workshop held here at the Douglas Library, Hebron, at the community room. I ask that we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This next section of the agenda is reserved for people in attendance who wish to briefly address the boards. The board requests that comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. People wishing to address the board regarding agenda items should request clarification from the chair as to whether or not they should speak now during the public comments portion or at the time the agenda item is being considered. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to address either of the boards? Hearing none, I just wanted to make a couple or three statements. Actually, it's going to be three. First off would be to our board members. A reminder that to maintain some level of order, questions, requests should go to the respective chairs, then up the chain. In our case, it would be the town manager. For the Board of Ed, it would be the superintendent. They will then get the answers and then filter that information back down. We're again trying to minimize a lot of the back and forth and maintain order. I also ask that we listen to others' viewpoints and that we maintain civility. Budget times are very contentious, and everybody's got their loves, and that's understandable, but we still have to maintain order. To the audience, to the people, whether here in the room or viewing us on the TV, if you have questions, please ask. Call the town hall. If they can't get you the answers, they will find out who can. It is essential. The last thing we need are people thinking, well, I think this is what they meant, or I think that this is, whatever. Call, ask, get the clarifications. Every year, this is a stressful time for all, and this year I don't think there's going to really be any different. But the information is available. Please ask for it. Thank you.
I'll be brief. I hope we're able to reduce the mill rate. I know that the proposed budget doesn't do that. But our mill rate is such that it doesn't allow many people to move to Hebron. Hebron's a wonderful place. It's too expensive. And I think we need to be careful and make sure that it's affordable for a wide diversity of people. For the future of the town. We want young people to move to Hebron. And if taxes are too high, they won't come. I think that's it. Thanks so much.
Yes.
It's my wish and the wish of the people that I've spoken to and who supported me that all the boards work together to share the burden and that we have a cooperative feeling towards providing services and that one doesn't receive more than the other. It seems to me after 15 years of being here that the public service part of this budget is the one that always seems to make the most sacrifices, and they're the smallest. So I'm talking about police, fire, public service, and so it would be my wish that we all cooperate and do the best we can to provide services, and if that means regionalization or having people get together to do jobs more efficiently, I think that should be our goal.
What I'll be looking for in the presentation, in all the presentations, are two words: innovation and efficiencies. So I want Hebron to be known for good government. I think we have a lot of, I think we are, do a lot of good things in Hebron, but we do need to become more efficient, and we need to find more innovative ways to do things, to reduce costs and just be more affordable to everybody.
Okay.
There's, Mr. Chairman, we need to do an introduction. There's some new members.
Sure. We'll start at the end and come around.
Jan. Jan Fineski, Board of Finance.
Elected Board of Finance Vice Chair.
Dave Eschke, Board of Finance Chair.
Diane Dalrasa, Board of Finance.
Michael McCormick, Board of Finance.
Peter Casper, Board of Select.
Gail Richmond, Vice Chair, Board of Selectmen.
Dan Larson, Chair, Board of Selectmen.
John Collins, Board of Selectmen.
Mark Rivera, Board of Selectmen.
Elaine Griffin, Finance Director.
Andrew Attorney, Town Manager.
Donna Lindsay, Director of Administrative Services. Marion Spalding, Board Clerk.
Okay, thank you very much.
I was going to say, then we have out in the audience our new superintendent of schools, Tom here, and Keith Pettit, who's on local board of ed, and Dana Colonna on ramp.
Welcome. All right. So Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance members, most of you. I'll open it up again if you want to know the arrangement with the television, with the presentations, not the best for you guys.
Oh,
Give you the opportunity to move it. You can do that now.
are we blocking the view from the camera?
Not
You're
really.
more than welcome to stay there if you want, if you just want to follow through with it.
Didn't we have a new arrangement last year? Did we figure that out?
The TV ended up in the same spot.
No, but we had Board of Selectmen up there.
This works.
All right, so if you want to stay there, that's fine, or if you want to move, you have to give it the option.
I can read.
Okay. So, pursuant to the charter 902C, we have to get this out by March, so. I sent this out to everybody, hopefully everybody got this. I don't think I need to read this because it's going to be repetitive. All the information that is in the letter is going to be in the proposal. So if it's the board's wishes, I'll just go right through the presentation and methodically go through that, and everything that's in there will be covered.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just to not drag this out. And I'll make sure the person that sets the room up next time gets the message. If I get it today. All right, so here it is, proposed Hebron budget for the fiscal year 2021. The town manager recommended budget. The board, second Board of Finance on March 3rd. And the attorney, town manager. So the proposed budget with the combined entities as of today, what we're proposing, we're looking at $36,676,477. That is a spending increase of $1,026,187, or a 2.88% over the current year's budget. So we're proposing a general government of $10,066,570. The Hebron Board of Education is presently at $11,561,416, and the RAM Board of Education is at $15,004,491. The proposed expenditures, these are the increases and the decreases this year, 1920 to 2021, as a comparison. So take a minute and look at that. It lists the total government, which is coming in at a 7-1, contribution to capital improvement, contribution to open space acquisition, contribution is nil for non-recurring. Cap projects is up because we changed the threshold, as you recall, for the CIP. The contribution to revaluation, we had a little bit more, we funded 40 last year, we're getting to 50 this year, so that's a $10,000 increase, which is more in line with the money we need. And the big one, the driver, is the debt service payment of the $475.74. So as we go through this, you'll see that is the most of the percentage increases. We have the teachers' retirement obligation, which is down. Hebron Board of Education, 1.95. RAM assessed without the debt is down to Hebron. And then the RAM debt service is at 3.24. So the total general government is $1,026,187, difference or 2.88%.
So we never paid the teacher's retirement obligation, right? So it's,
Is that projected in that section, or?
I haven't heard that.
I have not either, I'm just curious.
I mean, I've been up there, Gail was with me, that wasn't discussed, so.
I think they mentioned that, it wasn't going to disappear, they were looking. But I think more of it to do with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the town government, this is the page that's important, number 4, page 4 is the budget drivers. So these are some of the adjustments that we talked about and we've done. So the personnel, we've added a full-time van driver. That job now is full-time, where we'll be receiving benefits. We agreed to increase the hours of the part-time wetlands agent to get more enforcement on the planning and zoning regulations. Then we have the contractual salary increases, plus their benefits. Under public safety, we increased the part-time per diem EMTs we're proposing at 71. That does not include the request for a full-time fire chief at this time. That may be something that may change if directed to. Insurance, liability, auto, property, bond, and crime. This also includes the schools, local schools. The numbers are there for you to see, workers' compensation, medical insurance, and then capital projects. And of course, once again, this is the shift in the threshold. And a lot of that moving in the regular budget because of the change in the threshold seal.
Just want to briefly touch on that change of threshold. We upped the threshold for that, so that now there are things in this that normally we don't see.
I'll hit that when we get to the CIP, but yes, that's an accurate statement.
Andy, could you just remind me, you mentioned this, and I forgot about the insurance component of it, what was the increase, the percentage increase?
To the liability?
Yeah.
2. Yeah, one was zeroed out, and I think the other one was just under 3. We can get that for you. So, this is an expenditure history, general government budget. You'll see the rise, once again, I don't need to keep pointing to this. The reason that's up so much is because we added to the debt. So we're pleased, this is for Peter. This is from Kerman, our insurance carrier. We're pleased to provide the budget and estimates for the town of Hebron Board of Education, liability, auto, property, and workers' compensation. The town of Hebron Board of Education is entering into the second year of Kerman's highly successful LAP budget stabilization program. This letter confirms that your rate will not exceed what is stated below for July 1, 2020. 21 liability, auto, property renewal. So the LAP is a zero increase, and the workers' compensation estimate is based on Kerma's workers' compensation pool aggregate rate needed to determine the actual review and approved by Kerma Board of Directors. So the workers' comp rate is a 5.0%. So once again, back to the expenditure history, that debt is what pushed that bar chart up. And then the capital projects are also in there. That were originally operating budget. Slide 6. On slide 6, it's the capital expenditures. So it's a CIP general government contribution of $723,372. That's, as Danny stated, the new threshold is over 75,000 and higher than previously. It was not that high. We have a revaluation, which we're going to go into next year. So we're earmarking $50,000 to add to that, to pay for that. And then the annual contribution, capital expenditures, $118,488. And that threshold is now $10,000 to $75,000. Capital expenditures, with that $10,000 to $75,000, these are the projects. The Public Works Department is looking for a vehicle lift. If they do a new one, that one's transferable to a new facility at any point. They've been working with that one so recently, so I think it's time to try to help them out with all the work that they do. The fire department is looking for fuel tank management units. The ones that run the fuel pumps are quite old since they were installed in the original ones and need a replacement. Under miscellaneous, you have the Douglas Library flooring, this building here, and that will complete the project for the flooring on that item. Second item, Douglas Library window replacement. This installment will be the last one to complete that project. And then the building department software. We, as Danny may know, we've been having a lot of trouble with that, and it's not compatible. We can't get the people that supply that to come out and rectify the problems with that. And we've tried and tried, and some letters, we still continue that problem. So at this point, I think there's no other real option is to get away from that. That ties with the assessor's office, the building permits, and land use. It's something that is pretty important to the assessor and the building department, so I approve that. So the total capital expenditures was $118,488. The CIP recommendations for the upcoming budget in priority, as I placed them, the new priority now goes to the town manager. The town manager brings it to the Board of Select Board of Finance for approval, for review. We can move on from there. So this year will be the first time. So on the top is the road resurfacing and road improvements, $292,697.
So, how's that, we borrowed some money for roads, how does that go with the budget, how does that place in the budget?
So what we've done over a 20-year period, we knew that we weren't funding our largest fixed asset, which is our roads and infrastructure, to the amount that we needed, and we knew at the end of the 20-year cycle, we would need to catch up. So we waited for our larger project, which was the sewer project, and we tapped on $2.5 million to try to assist us in doing that. But in also doing that, we took out 2 or 3 parking lots, both schools, Company Tree Fire Station, and possibly some work at the senior center. So it's not all designated to roads, but this was to be on and above the original amount that we normally fund to try to catch up. He has a pavement management inventory, and when he comes, he can speak more to that. So back is the bucket truck, the $45,000. He has documentation from 3 truck suppliers that he employed from last year to try to find us a bucket truck. And they've all written letters where, due to the demand for tree trucks, there's not a really decent used truck out there, so he's back again in front of us looking for the $45,000. And that truck is now, I can say, being used every day. We're out there, and then we still have contractors as well, but that truck's out every day. To the Admiral Ashmore, so this is something we kind of tried to save some money on last year with the Wall Street sidewalks. We took that out, but I think it's imperative that we put that back in. That was a very highly promoted for many, many years from the residents. Coming from Ridge Road heading towards the Ram campus is very unsafe. There's no shoulder, there's nowhere for the kids to walk. So we've heard loud and clear that that is a priority, so that's back in the budget.
And also now with the Ram parking lot project going forward, it makes sense that this gets tied into that whole aspect.
Can I ask a question on this project?
Yeah.
Is the area on the Rand property, is that being funded by Hebron or is that being funded by the Rand project? Because that was a question that the 135, my understanding last year, was to go all the way down through the Ram property. And it was brought up, well, if it's the Ram property, why is the town paying for that section? So is this just to the border where the garage is, or is this all the way down into the middle of the Ram property?
Good question. There was some money partially funded last year towards this, and this is an additional ones. This would do the whole sidewalk. We have an alternate in the bid that is out to bid. And if the monies were to come in, and there was enough money on the alternate on the campus improvements, they would do that portion. But we've been putting it off and we were waiting for that project, so hopefully that'll bear some fruit, but I'm not positive that it will, so we want to make sure we budget. But as we move forward, we probably will know before we have to go to the referendum.
Fair enough, thank you.
So under the engine tank 310, that's a refurbishment, that's the last payment to have that done. The Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant, that's the trails that Rich is working on that we approved to move forward, that's our contribution to that grant. The Peter House restoration, $25,000. I know we heard the sermon last year, that that was the last amount of funding the town would need to put into that. So once again, I'm back in front of you today to say, this is the last. They ran into some unforeseen issues with the sill and some areas that needed to be taken care of. They're moving forward, the place is coming out beautiful, we're almost there. They need one more shot in the arm, so I put that in there, try to finish that project.
Do you know, what's the total amount expended on the Peter's House restoration?
I don't have that today, but if that's something we can write down, we'll have that for you.
No, because we had a couple of years ago, but it's
Yep.
been added since.
Yeah.
We need to.
We can get that.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, okay, thank you.
I have a question also. The total of this is 832,000, and the summary shows a total of 723,000.
And the request for the Peters House?
No, and the total for
Capital.
CIP.
We'll show you in the next slide on the road.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
there's another, okay.
That's the contribution from the
This slide answers your question.
And then there's also a dump truck.
right. If I can wait, I'm not done with slide 8 yet, and we'll go to slide 8.
So the Peters House last year, we funded it with the idea that we were gonna get some matching grants. Did we get the matching grants, and did we get, is that also in this, is the recycling grants for it?
That would be the money that we would need to offset the matching grant. That's the reason I think we did not get any matching grants as of. We have in the past, but we haven't gotten it.
So did that money get spent?
I'm not sure.
I mean, if we're looking for 25 for this year, my understanding last year was that $30,000 was there to be matched. If it wasn't matched, it shouldn't have been spent, and if it wasn't spent, then why do we need an additional 25? And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I believe that they used that money on the unforeseen that we weren't expecting.
One of the things they found was some of the sills
Yeah.
that should have been
Right,
originally
yeah.
found
Right.
when the first contractor went in a number of years ago. When they started doing work, they found that all the original contractor had done was put boards front and back and walk away.
My question is really more of,
So that
I don't
money-
dispute they
I'm
needed to
assuming
use
that
the money,
got
was
spent to
that,
get that stuff done, so the project could go forward.
was that conveyed to,
We will,
and anybody approved that?
right, one grant is completely depleted, the other one's almost done, but I'll have a full running tally on what the money was spent.
No, that's not, the question here is, they asked for 30,000 last year, and that 30,000 was supposed to be a match to a grant.
I'm gonna get to that answer.
All I'm asking is, did someone know that they were spending it not on as matching funds, but they were
They've been
spending it?
spending the matching funds as well as the grants. This is for.
This was for additional matching funds.
I don't have that answer tonight, but I will
Go ahead.
get you the answer.
Okay.
I'll talk to Mike and we'll have a total accounting of what was spent and what's left and what it was spent on. So I think that
I mean,
answers both Peter.
My point is only that we've been putting money in and being told it's the end
Yep.
for at least 3 years. And I don't have a problem putting money in, but I want to make sure that when they put money in and they say they're going to use it for something specifically, and something else comes up, just somebody in the town manager's office is aware of that, and that the selectmen have been told that, and they've agreed to allow the change.
I'll get you
It's a
that.
management issue, it's not a,
Well, I think it's a policy issue too. right?
well, it's a policy issue which is done by management. Yeah.
So, I mean, if there was a change, it should there have been a vote by the board of selectmen?
I'm not sure there was a change there, so let me get the answer, then we can vet it with the board. Next we're on is to number 8. Is the Pendleton Drive Library Pedestrian Bridge that was requested by the board of selectmen. We had that engineer design, it's more than just a bridge, you had to put in lights, make it safe, and we had to add an entrance and an exit to that, which is somewhat of a stone dust trail. So that's the cost of that, spanning that road in a safe manner. So that total comes to $832,389.
So, just in anticipation, for a dump truck, a question I'll have is, what's been done to explore any kind of subcontracting?
This dump truck was taken out last year
Right?
due to that request,
So,
and then we made the choice to work with the Parks and Rec, and we shared a person. And in doing so, he's working now with Parks, and in the wintertime, he works with the Highway Department, so that canceled out, at least for last year, having a contractor. So now that's the truck that we took out last year's back. That's a replacement of 20-year-old plow truck that takes care of all the roots.
There was somebody driving?
Yeah, the gentleman I just spoke. We'll continue to look at that. But that's what happened last year during the budget process. Slide number 9 is the CIP Revenue Recommendations. So the balance from the previous appropriations, which isn't very much this year. And we have the LoSiP funding that we're hoping to obtain, so we've got that the same at the 7477. We have funding from other sources, which Public Safety Fund, 31,800. And then go down to the interest that was earned on the account of $6,000 for, and then also the general fund contribution what we're proposing is $723,372. So total revenue, total is $832,389. The Hebron Board of Education, it's a comparison from 2019-2020 to the proposed budget. Increase is $220,892, that's a 1.95% increase. Part of this budget, RAM levy also adds to the total. There's a comparison between the 1920 and 2021. So this is a little bit different. This shows the Hebron change based on the 2021 levy. The increases, our levy number is 48.27%. So that's a percentage increase of 3.77. But because our numbers went down, it's a decrease of 163,094. The Hebron change based on the 1920 levy, which was 50.45%. So that number would have been 518,972. List below, that budget increase includes the 232 CIP budget, and it also includes the 53,941.56 surplus credit.
Is the surplus credit based on the results of this year's audit and the extra $400,000 they had?
I believe so.
Okay.
This is, it's fuzzy because that's how we got it. This is the RAM levy, and it shows the projected enrollment and the grade combinations. We provide that information every year.
They'll be in to discuss their budget.
Yes, both Hebron out and the RAM board will be presenting this next week at the same time.
It's amazing, our CIP is less than twice of what their one campus CIP is.
So once again, this is the comparison of the 3 towns that make up the RAM levy. As you can see, I've got a meeting with the 2 other towns tomorrow. They're coming in to see me. Andover, this year, their numbers are up, 70.34. Hebron, we're at 48.27. That's down from the 50.45. In Marlboro, they're up to 34.39, and that's up from the 33.33. So they're looking at some increases in those 2 towns. Here's an expenditure history, which we show every year, to try to give you a visual. From years in the past, you can see the 3 entities. There's general government, there's the Hebron Board of Ed, and then the RAM Board of Ed. Next is my favorite, the pie chart. And it gives you a picture of what makes up this total budget, where RAM is coming in at 41% overall. The Hebron Board of Ed is 32%. So with that statement, I used to say that the school or the Board of Education's budget was 75% of the budget. That's not true this year. It's 73%, so it's gone down a little bit. The town's at 27%. If that's confusing to guys like Mal that does numbers, if you look at the capital expenditures, the CIP and the capital projects are in that number from 10,000 to 75,000. And also reval, so if that doesn't add up, I want to make sure that it's.
Why do you have general government at 10 million on the first page and it's at 7 million?
Because the 10 million includes all the capitals.
Yeah.
It's everything. The 10
Yeah.
million is everything.
Yeah.
It's the debt, it's the capital contributions, it's everything.
Just breaks it out. That makes sense, Charlie.
Yep.
On slide 16, this is proposed revenue, the increases and decreases. As you can see, general government, Other state revenues is down. BCS special ed grant funding, there's the numbers, it's up over the new budget that appropriate last year. Other revenue sources, that's, we didn't find out this year, other than that. The next one's debt management contribution.
Can we go back?
100,000 is the revenue sources from land for the CNG.
Go ahead.
Are you saying when it comes to BCS special ed, it's tough to put the special ed grant funding together with it? My question is, or my assumption was that our BCS was going down this year.
ECS has gone down, but we budgeted the first numbers from the governor for 1920, and we ended up getting $442,000 more for 1920.
Yeah, we were proactive.
Forgot.
Didn't take that.
Thank you.
The debt management contribution, that's the $100,000 payment from Liam for the gas conversion. And then the tax revenues, they are what they are. There's the difference, 2.23%. So it's a 2.88% overall. So the October 1st, 2019 grand list real estate, that's up 0.61. Personal property is up 8.60. Motor vehicles up 3.52 for a net total of 1.10. Then there underneath, there's a grand list accounts comparison for the real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle from 2018 to proposing. So pretty self-explanatory there.
Is there a number? I know that we've granted, or selected and granted a tax abatement for Copeland Village. Do we know what that's worth year by year?
Yep.
Can you share that?
Yep, we'll get to that.
And, oh, okay, you're gonna,
It was a 5-year at 20%.
Right. Yeah.
They're presently at 40% now.
Right.
But we know what that's worth.
okay,
I don't have it on top of my head, but we'll get that.
that's fine, thank you.
Yeah. So if that's it for slide 17, we can go to slide 18, which is a grand list profile. As I stated, we will be coming up in a reval year. So it's going in the right direction, but we could always do better. I mean, last year we were a lot higher than the surrounding towns. This year we're right there, but we're going to do better. Here's the mill rate calculation on the grand list on October 1st, 2019, $787,123,490, less potential Board of Assessment Appeals adjustments. So we checked with Deb, she felt comfortable with that number we plugged in. Our reduction in the grand list is $7,559,000, which that equates to $369,524 in taxes. Adjusted grand list is $779,549,450. That gives you a mill rate of $779,549. Mills based on 98.50% collection rate, which we feel is a good number. So the mill rate for the proposed budget, and we're looking at it at this point right now, is a 37.40. Well, that's a 0.35 over this year's current mill rate.
Is that different from what you sent out in front?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, we're working on it every day. It's good catch though, John. I was gonna get to that. Yeah, that's already a big improvement.
Right, you were at 37.92
Yep.
or something.
Well, I knew I was gonna be facing you today, so I guess.
Well, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
In terms of the collection assumption,
Yes.
don't we generally collect over 100% or?
Not over 100%, but go ahead.
We can collect 100% of the 98.50 collection rate. We don't collect 100% of the total levy.
What do we collect? 100%. We only collect 98.5% every year?
We collect, yes, with what we base our budgeted amount on at the 98.5% collection, we collect 100% of that. That would be up to the board of finance to decide whether to increase the collection rate. But we don't collect enough to increase that collection rate. That's been reviewed by them
And they will
for the last
again.
3 years.
That's not the town manager's recommendation to change that. We looked at that and we talked to the assessor and the tax collectors, but that's underneath the board of finance's preview. We looked at that and want to change that.
Yeah, I've done some research, I've spoken to CPM, we're about right in the middle. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't go up or down, but we're about, we're not out of the norm in terms of where we are. In terms of what
2
we,
years ago, we didn't collect all of our
correct.
budgeted revenue.
We got a cushion in there to be safe. But if we move it up, it would be a gamble. And if we don't collect it, we're scrambling to make that money.
So what's one of the factors in that is that you see Glastonbury's get, I think they're 99.5 assumptions because they have commercial property.
But I don't know if the 99.5 is, that's what they're basing the 98 to 50%, or is it collecting 99.5?
No, that's their assumption.
We had ours at 99%, and then the board of finance lowered it about 6 years ago.
We wasn't up at 99 for more than like 3 years.
Yeah, because we were having troubles collecting it.
Good question.
I'd like to make a point. The tax bills go up for 100%. And the effort is to collect 100%. This is an estimate to make sure that we collect the proper revenue to pay all the town's expenses. So she could collect more than 98.5, and it would go into the rest of the revenue, the other revenue. So it's conservative to make sure that we have enough money. She's not turning money away.
No,
Sorry.
no, I understand that. It's just, if we were collecting, if the assumption was too conservative, then we would be collecting too much money. So I'm just, if you've got a survey or if we have data on exactly how much we collect every year.
We do.
Okay.
And I'm in the process right now for next week of coming back with a lot of relevant information. David and I have been talking back and forth, from percentages of education to general government to population creep up or down to several things, and that's one.
Because it does make a big difference. If we got it down up to 99.2, we'd probably reduce our mill rate by 0.3 or something like that.
I don't think it's that high.
We could figure it out.
Elaine, I think Elaine figured it out before, and I thought it was like 0.5% was $130,000 in additional tax revenue.
It was a couple years back.
Couple years.
I mean, it could.
One question for you, because I don't remember the answer to this. If we were to raise that and not achieve it, does that change how Moody's looks at us? Because I couldn't remember, that was one, I think that was one of the reasons why we went back from 99 back to 98. Just for
Gives you some sort of a cushion, a
yeah.
little safety buffer. Otherwise,
Well, we didn't want to put our bond rating at risk.
And right now, you need to remember that a lot of our excess collection has been severely delinquent accounts. So that's bumping what our collection rate is looking at right now.
So if we can get some data, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay, if there's no more questions on that slide, number 20. This is how to calculate the mill rate for the people in the audience or on Facebook Live. So the adjusted grand list divided by 1,000 equals the mill value. So 779, 549, 450 divided by 1,000 equals the 779, 549. tax revenue divided by the mill value equals the mill rate. Mill value at 98.50%. Collection rate equals 767,856. So that's 28,714,660. That's divided by the 767,856. That equals your mill rate of 37.40. How to calculate real estate tax amounts is the assessed value times the mill rate equals your tax. So 210,510 times 0.03740 equals your tax would be 7,872. Post-tax calculations, we do this every year. We try to throw 3 remaining houses in the town. One, the value of the 215, it shows you what with this proposed budget, what your taxes would be all the way to the far right. So 215,420. Home, your taxes are over $53 for $300,725 home. You're gonna go $74, and if your house value was $528,724, you're looking at $129 increase. So once again, a lot of that is due to the added debt that we added at the referendum for the improvements that's pushing. If that was not added, those numbers with what this budget's being proposed would be a negative tax increase. Would have been like flat. Okay. CIP recommendations for this year for 2021, road resurfacing as stated, $293,697. The bucket truck, the additional $45,000. The Wall Street sidewalks, that includes a RAM, $134,000. Refurbishment of engine tank 310 for the $35,000. The grant for the trails is the $60,000 match. The dump truck is at $152,000. The Peters House restoration is at the $25,000, and the Pendleton Drive to Library pedestrian bridge is the $87,692. So the total recommendation for CIP is $832,389. So we can get into that. And then as we go through the budget presentations, when the department is good, they can speak to it more if there's questions regarding the items. There's not a lot of items there, so I'll present the list. On the Hebron Road maintenance and resurfacing, there's 80 miles of road. It's our largest fixed asset. Continuing timely maintenance is more cost efficient than deferring it until it's deteriorated. Safer roads to travel, quicker emergency responses, more comfortable rides, less wear on the vehicles, and efficient economic preservation of our largest town asset.
So Andy, I wasn't clear, but we're studying 293. How much of that's coming from our bond? Is that it?
No, that 293 is an addition. What was coming from the bond was earmarked of 2.5 million, and out of that, there's some CIP projects that we pulled out of CIP to lower that, which would be 2 school parking lots, some additional work in the senior center, possibly the library, and Company 3 firehouse. And then the rest would go into trying to catch up on the roads after a 20-year period of funding it at a certain 3%.
So those are those listed in the presentation?
He will, when he puts it,
John, that number is in there every year, it's in CIP.
Right.
Every year, and it goes up slightly each year.
So we will see the same number next year.
Well, you'll see,
About something.
yeah, you'll see that plus probably 3% or 6%,
So this is an
whatever.
ongoing, this stuff is an ongoing.
yeah, we agreed that at some certain, when the committee was assembled, that each year we should, in order to stay somewhat current, but we knew we would fall behind and waited till we had a larger bonding project to add on to try to catch up. Even that amount of money, we're not gonna fully get caught up, but
Well, this is similar to the question that's out there on the sewer. Why didn't we save money over the last 25 years so that we didn't have to bond money to put in the new, or to repair the system? This is very similar. If we don't raise that $90,000 significantly, then, and just pull the numbers out of the air, 20 years from now, we probably will be looking to catch up again. And that decision is really a decision, a policy decision of yours and a finance decision of ours in terms of, is it depending on where the cost of money is it better to put the money aside, or is it better to take the money at the best rates you can get?
Okay, so I thought in getting the 2.4 million, we were responding to VHB's study that showed that we had a rating of like 74.
Correct.
As Dave said, a C minus, or a gentleman's C. So I thought we were going to spend a little bit more on roads to bring them up.
We are with the grant, but as of now, the CIP amount is the same in terms of if we get them from, I think it was 67% was projected, and the goal was 80%. If we got it up to 80% with this bond and continue to fund it at the same rate we've been doing over the last 20 years, then 20 years from now, each year, we would be getting lower than 80 and lower than 79, because we're not putting up enough money annually.
To stay up.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, so how much more over last year was spending on roads?
Was that 3% increase?
3%. Okay.
At least in the CIP money is 3%.
Okay.
So what we're doing in some of that money that isn't here is, once again, we're always trying to get bond money. So we're in front of CROG and we're trying to get $1 million to do the roads. So in order to meet the criteria for the grant, I gotta spend like $12,000 to $15,000 for the data they need to consider. So some of this money is going, in this year's budget, last year's going towards that. If we get that $1 million grant, that once again will help us achieve that paving condition inventory, and we're trying to go for 80%.
Roads are really.
And Kevin, the public works director, will be here at one of your meetings, and he'll be able to speak to that more elegantly than I am.
The consultant did tell us that in order to keep our roads at 80%, then we ought to be spending $500,000 a year on roads.
Exactly.
So that would be, we have to say, okay, we're gonna change CIP from 290 to 500,000 and then annually increase that. So I mean, that kind of nets out where we need to go if we don't wanna have to bond again.
Right.
At least at this point.
But I think you'll agree, though, all in all, our roads are really in very good condition, especially looking at some of the other towns around that. Another thing is we got kind of hit a couple of years ago with the asphalt prices. Went sky high because of the price of wood. You know, these are things that, at this point in time, we have no idea what's going to happen in 3 months. You know, it could go up, or I got gas for $2.39.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a moving target.
When we got that report, I took it out and looked at the roads that were evaluated low. And, I mean, they're not too bad, actually. Anyway.
They will be.
Well, in this kind of weather, it's playing havoc with the roads. You know, with the rains.
Freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw.
It tears them up from underneath up. So it's, you know, and then, again, it's something we have no control over. What the weather is actually.
Okay.
And just
Go ahead.
Just for clarification, the 80 miles of roads, those constitute human, state roads, state, what is our responsibility? Just-
We have 80 miles of town road that we're responsible of. We add the state roads in, there's 100 miles within the boundaries of Hebron, but we're responsible for 80 miles equals 160 lane miles. So if you're mowing the edge of a road, you gotta mow both sides, it's 160 lane miles of pavement, gotta make both sides 160 lane miles. But 80 miles total of that, the state roads in this part, it's right around 100 miles within Hebron. Okay, next up, slide number 25, due to that little bug there, the yellow ash borer, that's kind of pushed this piece of equipment up to a specialty type piece of equipment. We were very lucky, many years ago, we bought a 1988 truck, which is now 30 years old, has 135,495 miles on it, and 5,000 hours approximately. Recently repaired, had to put a radiator, exhaust, boom hoses, steering linkage, had to do the decking, rack. We're doing concentrate work, hundreds of dead and dying ash and oak trees along the town roads and the town properties and parks and trails. Due to the gypsy moths have also done much damage. So we were very fortunate. We didn't have that truck for 30 years. We bought it used, but we had it for 15 years. And it was a year when the DOT, it was a winter similar to this. It's the only other one I remember. I think back like in '88 or something. So the state didn't spend a lot of money on snow removals, and they went and bought a whole bunch of new trucks, and they got rid of some surplus that was still somewhat decent shape, and we were lucky to get that. So then we don't have that avenue anymore. We've been checking, and Kevin had, and I also helped. I mean, we employed some of the truck vendors in the state of Connecticut and outside of Connecticut, but most of the stuff has been snatched up or it's really old and worn, so he's back in front of us knowing the need and the use that we're gonna have for the truck. And then, as John mentioned in the email, we will assist other towns in emergencies, or if needed, if we're not flat out ourselves, but we have done that in the past, several towns, during bad storms and microbursts. We went to Weathersfield, we went to, what's that town? Wellington, went to Wellington, spent a week up there. We went to Middlebury. You know, that's a specialty piece of equipment. When a town gets hit with a storm or microburst, the public works families send mutual aid. And our surrounding towns as well. We've done a lot with Colchester, Bolton. We have helped Andover in some instances, not on a regular basis. But
So we get paid, or is that just part of the, our mutual aid?
it's a shared thing. If we do something to them, they have a specialty piece of equipment, a screener that we use. It's kind of a trade-off type of agreement.
So does this 88 truck get traded in, or do you use it like my Honda Pilot until it dies?
Kevin says he wants to cut it in little bitty pieces so nobody can say we got rid of it, was gonna last any longer. So we'll probably just launch it.
I got a Pilot in case I didn't mention.
There's a, have you ever heard of this company that has a rather new piece of equipment that just goes out and replaces this stuff? It's expensive. It's very expensive, right?
Yeah.
But it's fast, right? I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah, he lives in town.
Like,
It's $800 an hour.
We use them, but that's, you're talking millions, that's $1 million equipment.
Very efficient, right?
Yeah.
Insane.
Who is it?
Distinctive trade.
Jason, you're. Right, Vinny?
Yeah.
He's got a couple of them.
Yeah, he does, he actually has the fuels. So this is the Wall Street sidewalks. The best meets the health and safety concerns. Sidewalks now extend from Main Street north to Ram. The project will extend the sidewalks from Ram along the west side of Wall Street north to Ridge Road. This will be a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, 1,670 feet in length, constructed in the state right of way except for a small area leading from the Ram campus. The proposed crosswalk would be on the Ram driveway, which is what we proposed. So the total cost estimate is $174. A typical sidewalk of this type, a life expectancy of 25 years. And that's been in front of the CIP, us for at least 10 years. Engine tank 210, refurbish, it's a 1998 KV engine tank, assigned to Station 3, it's 33,500 miles, 3,325 hours. Fire attack north end of Hebron and neutral aid, 1,000-gallon tank. The goal is to bring this truck up to current safety standards. You guys have been funding that right along, so this would be the last installment for that. The Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant was approved and we received almost $400,000 for the phase 3 of the Hebron Center Airline Trail Connector.
Andy, back to ET3 tax. Money was, I think, 50,000 is what Stitching and went was appropriated last year. It's my understanding that it was requested and approved rather than to spend that on the fire truck, that they would go out and purchase the additional ambulance. So, did they not need that 50,000?
They only needed 30.
It was more of 60,000, and we needed 30 or 35 to buy the ambulance.
Okay, so spend 30,000 not on the truck.
Right, which was approved.
And he was also supposed to be funded this year.
He reworked the numbers on the truck with the manufacturer when we come to truck like that, so he reduced the amount of money.
Okay.
We're looking for a bid waiver to do that, but in order to try and get this budget, we're working every angle we can. Good catch. You're
Well,
100% right. It should be more, but
Right.
we lowered the amount.
Thank you.
So, where would the Hebron elementary pipe proposed to be?
That's not us.
So,
No. That comes out of
It came out of unassigned fund.
Yeah, that's our-
It's in its own fund, we already funded that.
What we didn't fund is the guys over the building on the weekends. Sorry, Tom.
Or the clerk at the meeting.
Next up, John's favorite item is the 6-wheel dump truck, the plow and sander. As we stated, at 160 lane miles of road, we have 10 designated routes, and then we have some other smaller equipment that does the parking lots, town properties, cemeteries, things of that nature. So this was taken out of last year, now it's put back in because we got away from the one with the contractor, and we needed more work on the town greens, so we shared a person with the parks and the public works, so that's why that's back in. Peter's house. I will get the information from planner, Mr. O'Leary, and give a full accounting of what's been expended and where it's come from, grant-wise and town monies, and what it's been spent on. He's on vacation, so I'm going to have to put that in there. Thursday, maybe following week. Right. Restoration is required to make the building safe and available for public use. Previous restorations were accomplished, mostly with grants, volunteer expertise, and labor has been essential. So everybody needs to know, we have, Dean is one, but we have certain individuals in town that work tirelessly up there for little or no wages whatsoever, refurbishing this house, and they should be commended. The whole committee, for them, there's a couple that really shine, spend lots and lots of their own personal skills and hours in restoring this historic house. So, as much as we talk about budgets, there's a lot of time and energy, free labor going into it from volunteers within our town. Way more than anybody could probably expect. And John Menard is the leader in that. So kudos to him. Yeah, I'll just update it for now, we'll go back to the pen. Thank you. Pendleton Drive to the library pedestrian bridge. This is trying to connect walkability or downtown. We have a lot of events that are now there. The kids go back and forth from AHM to the library. This has been long discussed, but finally we put pen to paper and had this design, and we budgeted a number, so this is in here. It was a request by the selectmen. So safe pedestrian access in and around Hebron's business district. Residents and enjoy the town center. A component of the Hebron Center Plan promotes community connectivity. Connection.
Just for the audience, you may just want to, again, a little description of where this is actually going to go.
So it's actually right outside of this building, and it's in the very rear corner of the old parking lot.
Right.
And it would extend over to Patty Dunn's where the gazebo is, and that's where it would come out. So it would connect the Pendleton Drive AHM area to the library area. And there would be a walking path on both ends, so you get to the bridge, cross that stream, and it'll be lighted and structurally sound. So that's what you're looking at, across to do that is.
And we'll give an alternate route for having to walk across the bridge where that little stream is, out from the old town hall over to the firehouse.
Right, where there's really no sidewalk on that side. So you get,
So this is definitely a safety issue.
absolutely.
Kids use that constantly as you've been walking along the road, so be a benefit.
Yep. Next is your CIP 5-year plan. This is something we maintain in order to get our lots of funding. And it lists out years. Some of these projects are subject to change, but we want to keep this in the budget consistent as we always do. So it lists there again this year's request, but it shows out year projects as well.
For the Pendleton Drive, have we looked at grants for that?
We have not. This is the first time that the request came up from the selectmen. We put it to the town planner, we had it engineered, and now this is the proposal that's in front of you.
I will say that our town planner and town staff have been instrumental in just a huge number of grants and successful grants.
That's all I was
So
wondering.
we've really been very, very lucky. And they're constantly applying. So, a lot of these numbers, as grants come available, you may be able to tie something into a grant.
I might have misspoke. We did apply for a grant a while back and the grant dried up. That was for more decorative lighting going down the other side of Main Street to complete that. And I believe we didn't have a design, but there was a bridge being proposed in that grant. And then we actually got notice of award, but then they took it away. And with no steep presently being funded, those types of grants have dried up right now, so the selectmen wanted to move forward and at least have a design and some sort of plan, so that's what we did.
Thank you.
So it's great. It's our first step towards incorporating in the future the Horton property. It's 2026, so I think it's a great idea.
Once again, there's another piece of the 5-year plan, part for the Board of Education, which Tom's new, we'll get together and we'll look at some of these projects moving out. I think we're gonna start plugging in with his permission, we'll probably look at some roofs.
I was just gonna say roofs.
Yeah, and then once those roofs get done, we will come back with a solar proposal, but that's what kind of deterred that for now. But I know there's some roofs and some other things that we might want to sit down.
Parts of roofs.
Bring them up to speed. Fire department, recreation, Douglas Library. These are just years out, always try to plan for the future. So the budget process is the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance review the budgets during the month of March. Board of Selectmen make a recommendation to the Board of Finance by March 31st. The budget process is the second will conduct a public hearing Tuesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. here at the Douglas Library. The budget process, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the Board of Finance recommended budget no later than the third Tuesday in April. The budget hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020, 7 p.m. at the Ram High School Auditorium. And the budget process is pursuant to section 903 of the town charter, referendum vote on the town budget and the capital improvement budget. Tuesday, May 5th, at 6 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. that day at the Hebron Elementary School. So we'll have to get together and run that, and security.
That's also RAM, right?
And RAM, yes. Excuse me. The budget review schedule is listed here. Tuesday, March 3rd, which is today. And then the next one will be Tuesday, March 10th. The Hebron Board of Education, the Rand Board of Education, and the miscellaneous.
So that's Thursday, May 5th? On slide 37.
It says Tuesday, May 5th.
Yeah.
That's the referendum.
Oh, May 5th, okay, sorry. Right.
March 5th is just
Okay.
Slide number, page 38, the budget review schedule, March 10th, March 17th, and March 24th, and it lists who's going to be presenting. If there's anything that you have questions on, now that you have your budget books, and you go through this, get it to us, we'll add. If you need to see somebody or something that jumps out, we can answer it, we'll have the person from that department come and speak to it. This is what we felt was pertinent, these are the department staff, drivers, so we try to bring those, but if there's anybody else, we're willing to accommodate requests.
Andy, in your bottom line number, I know we were talking back in January that our broker recommended 7.5% increase on healthcare. Has that changed?
Oh, yeah.
And is that reflected in this budget?
It is in ours, I'm not sure if we, Tom, did you give me that, did you reduce yours by that?
No, it's the salary,
Yeah.
so the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I'm not sure Ram's gotten us new numbers, but Hebron's number was reflected.
Oh,
Their
those
board-
are questions that are
Yeah, their
appropriate.
boards approved their budgets prior to this, so they were already out there, so. Information and comments, the selectmen have established an email address for the budget comments. It's hebronbudget@hebronct.com. Comments will be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and Education. Budget information is available in the town clerk's office, the Douglas Library, and the Senior Center, and also at http://hebron.com/budget information. We want to hear from you. We don't get a lot of that anymore. We used to get a lot of it. We haven't, in the last year or two, I don't think we got one last year.
any of that.
It must be due to the town manager's presentation. Right, Janet?
I agree.
Can something get put into the breweries, the JI? Again, with that information, so that people know who or where to contact for questions?
Yeah, that's the bottom of the story, right?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. You know, again, our quest is,
We'll put the legal notice in with the budget, which we have to, in that'll be listed.
Yeah, it would be nice to also get the dates of the meetings, people wanting to come and watch.
We'll put that on our webpage and on Facebook. And if anything I do,
Yeah, it would be nice to get it, I mean, people look in all different places.
absolutely.
We're gonna do this whole message. We're gonna do this whole message.
Okay, so the school's gonna be doing it. And anything I post, Rich Marzi puts up 5 seconds later, so.
It needs to get a lot.
thank you.
But you're
Thank
right.
you.
And, thank you, you guys do a really nice job of presenting in a way that's, it's concise, it's understandable, and it's well done, you can tell it's not. So thank you for this.
One thing that I didn't say by not reading the letter, to be redundant, is I want to thank the department heads and the staff for the time and effort that we put in this. I know, and John can contest to this, John reached out to us today to see if he could get us up early. We weren't done with these till a couple hours before the meeting. It's just so many moving targets and getting some late information and having to change some numbers, as John also stated, the numbers changed from what was sent out to you. In the positive, but then it was into the negative.
And the numbers will change again
They will.
before this all gets put to bed.
They will, but I want to thank the staff and the department heads for the cooperation, taking the time to get the estimates and the timely responses back to finance. As most of you know that deal with us more frequently than the public, we're going through a conversion with our finance department. And you'll see that as we go through the budget book. It's totally different than what you're used to. And please bear with us, that's not intentional, and we'll walk you through it, but it's not as descriptive as the old ones used to be. And as we go through them, you're going to see that. So if you have any questions, we'll continue to write it down and get back to you, but I think you'll get used to it, and it will definitely show you. You can look over to the right on the percentages and see, we'll tell you what the departments you're looking at. Because it's just account numbers, but it'll tell you where the spikes are in the budget. To me, that's what if I were you, that's what I'd be questioning. I don't think there's a whole bunch of them, but we'll clearly be able to describe if and why there are increases in those line items if you need to know.
The department descriptor, as you go through each tab where it's broken out by the departments, the department descriptor is in the bottom left-hand corner for what department you're looking at. So if you look at like tab 1000, and then you look at the first page, you'll see the department's payroll 1000. So it'll be in the bottom of every one of the pages. So it's
Okay.
One last question, just for knowledge for my own. Do we know how much the budget would have to come down for it to be even to the mill rate last year?
to have it stay at level of 37.5. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yes. Yes.
272,000.
Approximately.
Okay,
So,
Jesus.
with that said, what plan do we have a goal in terms of as we evaluate, since we're thinking about the context of what we're trying to achieve? So like if I'm trying to stay flat, then that causes a different view of how we look at the book. If we're looking at more individually at different departments and all these things that are representing and allow each department will have logic as to what I would understand. So, at what point, and is there a point in which we collectively would have to set some sort of objective, or is it
I think we could discuss what our objectives are. I know John wants a reduction in the mill rate. I would be happy to maintain a current mill rate. You know, and we can discuss it right now. We can discuss it with the Board of Finance. The problem is, so much of it is out of our control. The big drivers, we have no control. And that's a major issue. Another thing, and I'll say it every year until the cows end up walking back down the yard. When the biggest dollar items are, of course, rent. And that is a 3-town vote. So without those numbers being controlled, our overall budget other issue is when we put our budget to referendum, we have to, from what I've been told by statute, include Ram's budget, but that may or may not pass. So that creates an issue.
So in our control, it's 59% of the budget is in our control.
Right, yeah, that's right.
I would love, myself would love to see the mill rate stay stable, but I'm concerned about the health and safety of the residents of town. I'm concerned about preserving our quality of life, which makes this a place that we want to live in and other people want to come to. So we can't start chipping away on that.
I think health and safety in general.
Health and safety is our primary purpose.
Well, and we all know that there are areas in town that, as you just said, Gail, we can't reduce, but there may be more efficient ways to do it. We have to take, and I'm not discrediting what we've already done, but we've got to take the next step in looking at how to consolidate, how to share services, how to just do things more efficiently. The town hall cannot
Times change.
do it with
You
the
have
staff
to
they
do
have
everything.
today. We can't take them down.
Right, so John talked about innovation, efficiency.
Yeah.
I talked about digital those kind of things. I think it's important that we have a direction. If it is indeed the challenges to reduce, to create the need for innovation and efficiency in order not to sacrifice safety and health and all the things that are most important. So do we challenge ourselves with that? Now,
I think we need to remember how much the town staff reduced this budget from what it originally was before we got it. And they've reduced it so much, I don't know where else they could reduce it without hurting health, safety, and quality of life. So if we could find some ways of keeping it stable, I thought it would.
And I think, again, we need, it's a buy-in from all of the different entities that can compose our budget. All the entities need to start looking at ways of saving, consolidating, sharing resources. That's what's going to allow us to survive. I look at a town like Andover, whose budgets are just going out of sight. Our mill rate is actually less than Marlboro's right now. And again, I'm not sure what's going to happen. As they end up picking up more and more of the RAM student population grows, that is going to be a direct impact on their budget. I feel, as much as I like to see the zero, we're actually starting off, and this is our first mill, we're starting off from not a bad place.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can do better. I'm hoping that, things will come down the pipe. But I kind of shudder when I look at some of these other towns, and you see in the papers, the different increases that these towns are entering their budget negotiations with. It's scary.
And that goes to the fact that the town has been run financially very well. It shows in what our mill rate has been and how we've been able to not let our town deteriorate, such as the roads and the like. We've been able to keep up with things. Our roads are plowed so well. So we have to, it's a delicate little balance. Now if we can find, efficiencies.
John, talking about the innovation and efficiency.
Yeah.
I think the public in general, is the folks that I talk to, don't want less. They want more, but
They want
more efficiently. I think is a testament to where our mill rate sits relative to the rest of the city. So,
And to that, Ron mentioned earlier that we're going to have for next week some other areas of the mill rate last year, comparable numbers. So also trying to get comparable numbers for other towns around us for what percentage of their budgets are on for that. And other statistics that might help you guys out as well.
I saw some of the information that you had said.
yeah,
I was kind of
pleasantly surprised. You know, 'cause a lot of times we do not necessarily know what the other towns say. And that was a lot of information.
I don't think we can make decisions on where the other towns are. However, I think it's very important we have a picture of
It's a guide,
Yes,
Exactly.
we have to take care of ourselves.
this is a guide.
I've had this odd hobby the last couple of months of going to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance meetings in other towns to see what's going on with them. And it is different, and, you know, I think where we are now is really excellent. I agree with Dan that we're starting off in a really good place. But it would do us great benefit to decrease our enrollment rate by even a little bit, in terms of just, first of all, showing that the Hebron's affordable. Second, attracting young people and other people, or what diverse population to Hebron for the future. But not at the expense of health and safety. I should say, you know, I think within the budget itself, we should recognize that we have capital improvements, but we're also doing other capital improvements, right? So we are restoring the sewers. We are replacing the pipes at Hebron, and we are improving the pavement. So, yeah, anything we can do, any ideas that people have, I hope we come back and go for that efficiency and innovation.
Mr. Chair, one part that I wanted to do, because I didn't read the front part, and then we have another presentation, is, as Gail stated, this isn't to send it home, but the town manager's reductions are listed under your first tab, page 2. From the department request, I reduced the budget by $326,770. Some of those were hard to do. We met with these departments, so I just want to make sure that the total request, normally when we do this presentation, because of the change of how the budget is presented, here's your reductions and they're listed here. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you.
So without further ado, if there's no other questions on the budget, we have another presentation, open space and land acquisition, committee presentation. And goodness, I see John Mulaney, and I also see a past movie star, Brian O'Connell.
What do you want to do?
Come right up so the camera can.
Okay. I might need to just so I can see my slides.
There you go. Was it clever, John?
Oh, that's actually.
The presentation's in your books in the front.
Yeah.
So sleeve it.
Yeah, hopefully I won't need this. John Mulaney from Open Space and Land Acquisition Committee. I'm currently the vice chairman of the committee. I've been on this committee since like 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere in there.
Thank you for your service.
And did about 13 years on the Conservation Commission as well. Usually Brian has done these the last couple of years when he was on our committee. So it's just there. Our open space committee and our open space land acquisition fund began back in 1998, established by a town ordinance that establishes the fund, and it provides for how appropriations are to be made to the fund, as well as the makeup of the committee. Our current membership includes members from Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, as well as the land use boards. We have several long-serving members and several shorter members now. We have a number of former members around the table too, like Mal, Dave's a current member, and John Collins, current member. Two citizens at large positions. I'm currently in one of them, and I've been start to look at properties on agricultural, natural resource areas, and for recreation. So we have established 3 subcommittees over time that have looked at those 3 different charters. Some of our agricultural land, include looking to purchase development rights on farmland as well as outright purchase of farmland. For natural resource protection, we look a lot at our wetlands and our water courses and some of our large forested blocks of land in town for looking for water quality protection as well as wildlife habitat, as well as things like passive recreation. Our recreation subcommittee has looked at parcels for active recreation as well as passive recreation opportunities, say for trails on forest lands and other areas in town. The picture showing in Parkville Park, which is really our largest active recreation acquisition, where there's still about another 60 acres of land that we haven't touched there that could be used for future fields. Just to look at some of our policies that we've had over time, we're guided by the Hebron's Plan of Conservation and Development, our wetland agencies, wetlands of special concern, Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and the State Plan of Conservation and Development. And some of the things that we've tried to do with our land acquisitions is to develop large open blocks of open space, connecting greenways along, a lot of times along some of our water course corridors, trying to promote multiple uses for these parcels so that if we, there may be some where we have some, I don't know, I'm trying to think if we have any where we have both agricultural, recreation, and natural resource protection. I guess that would be like the Raymond Brook Preserve. So we've tried to also work and leverage our work with the state of Connecticut, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and state land. So having our committee has been really important, and it gives us some means to talk with those agencies, and I think I think just by having the committee, I think it improves Ethan's chances for more state acquisition and spending of state dollars. Just looking at our some of our large blocks of open space to follow the Plan of Conservation and Development. There is a future open space plan in that Plan of Conservation and Development. We look at our important wetlands and water courses. We have a lot of the Salmon River watershed, which is a fairly pristine watershed with important cold water fishery and food water quality. We're certainly guided by the Parks and Rec master plan, and also try to look at major guidelines in the state plan of conservation and development. We look at connecting these large blocks of land, typically along some of those water courses, but sometimes we look at upland connections over large blocks of forested land that maybe connect from one watershed to another. Pretty quickly. As I said, here we've got the Raymond Brook Preserve, look for our multiple uses when possible. In working with the state of Connecticut, we've often worked to assist in some of the state land acquisitions by providing surveys for parcels, possibly funding appraisals, maybe partial purchase, sometimes technical services, things that we can do to kind of make that state purchase happen. So in a sense, we're kind of we're working with the state dollars mostly, but helping those things happen. Like I said, we look at where there's already state land, and we have discussions with the state officials often first when we look at a parcel and see if they might be interested in it before we decide to pursue it. These will typically be places adjacent to state parks and state forests, like Salmon River State Forest or preservation priorities for the committee are along water courses. It's always been a high priority, the Fawn Brook and the west branch of the Fawn Brook area. It's one of the areas with excellent trout habitat, some of the largest blocks of sort of uninterrupted forest. The other major water courses include like Raymond Brook, Jeremy River, Hope Valley, and Judd Brook. When we get into and a lot of those, I should mention on the corridors, a lot of those are important wetlands as well, like the Raymond Marsh. For farmland protection, we're seeking permanent preservation for farmlands that are unprotected, or farmlands. But also, there might be opportunities to look for other significant areas of prime farmland. It could be areas that actually just have prime farmland soils and might have some future use as farmland because of the soil type. Other things we're looking at are enhancing existing open space in the town. As I mentioned, state areas abutting state parks and forests. Working to for parcels along the airline trail as a buffer around the trail, and as well as establishing we worked on the working on the trail connection from the airline trail to the neighborhood convenience district in Raymond Brook Preserve and into the town center. And we're always looking for trail extension opportunities. Lastly, though, in some cases there may be some parcels that have scenic value, where we have a particular parcel that might provide a certain scenic gateway into the town, or land that preserves community character. And so to look at our what we've done over the years, we've had 725 acres of direct purchases by the town of Hebron. The list is shown on there. Recently, we have one of our larger acquisitions, the River property, which is over in the area. It contains 1,000 feet of frontage on the airline trail, and kind of is in that space between the airline trail and Northern Street. There's a large block of forest in there that comes down to Raymond Brook. And then the other two that were relatively recent were connected with the open space on the Horton property, as well as the St. Peter's Fields area. We've also worked with the state during that same time period, so what I say, that's 725 acres. During that same time period, the state has protected an additional 488 acres, some of it with Hebron assistance. And some of those properties are listed. One of the larger ones I can think of is along the airline trail in the section between Route 85 and Route 207. There's a couple large parcels there. And then recently is the Frackett property that you probably all recognize from abutting Gay City. And also in that same time, the state of Connecticut has purchased development rights on a number of farmland parcels totaling 604 acres, somewhat with Hebron's assistance. That brings a total of about 1,817 acres preserved, but not including another 220 acres of town accepted from the Mohegan Land Trust when it was dissolved. I can't think of what year that was, but it was probably about 10 years ago. If we look at our open space inventory, it represents about 26% of the town as permanent preserved open space. There's some additional private open space listed here. Those are things like golf courses or some of the private parcels like hemlocks or something like that. Talk about the fiscal impact of our committee. There have been a number of studies done by the American Farmland Trust over the years looking at our tax dollars from residential development. Usually we require a bit more in services than we're receiving in taxes. Some of our working things typically require a lot less, you know, as far as, you know, some of our working farms and all that really require a lot less services than our residential properties. So I think there's, you know, there's, look at how the town, you know, watching how the town has developed over the years, being on the, you know, I was on the Wetlands Commission, and we had a lot going on in town. We start to see, you know, that some of our larger parcels, for instance, like where we now have Merkel Park, we had seen a proposal for a, I think it was over 30 lot subdivision. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we look at in terms of, you know, whether we would have had a lot more services in the town, more teachers, more public works people, more streets to plow, things of that sort too. So those are the kind of things. Some of our open space benefits that I think many of you know are looking at our property values and perhaps the effect on some of our property tax increases over time. There's definitely been a lot of use for passive and active recreation. We seem to have a lot of people coming into town to use the Airline Trail and some of our open space areas. And I believe that some of them are spending money in town here as well. So, but it also provides, as Gail was talking about, you know, the kind of place that we want to live as well. We look, you know, preserving productive farm and forest land, our scenic vistas, cultural heritage. One of the biggest ones that I've always worked on here in town is looking at protecting our natural resources, including our clean air and drinking water. We have some of the highest quality streams in the state, the Salmon River, probably some of the best water quality. There's been some consideration of the Salmon River watershed being put forth as a wild and scenic river. You know, we look at providing habitat for wildlife, protection of our water courses. Just to look at our fund balance over the years, we've had about $4.4 million of revenues over the years, which a lot of which has come from town contributions as well as state grants. I think there was a mention of somebody, Michael Leary, who's really good at grant writing. We were 6 for 6 on state grants that we applied for. Considering applying for another one here this year. Some of it came from fees in lieu of open space, a few donations, investment earnings as well. Outside of actual outright purchase of land, some of the other costs include surveys for some of the properties we purchased, site assessments, and appraisals. Typically, when we're considering making a recommendation on a parcel, we have to typically, especially if there's state funding involved, we typically have to get multiple appraisals to make sure that the cost is what, you know, is what we're anticipating. So our current fund balance is listed as $398,000, but there's some commitments on there that haven't come out. So our effective balance at the moment is around $334,000. We have some ongoing activities for this year. I should mention we're working on following up with some state grants as well as potential large purchase coming up. We're working on the connection of the Airline Trail to the deeper business districts. We're typically out doing sidewalks on key parcels when they become available, or if we get contacts from landowners. And we're always trying to keep up our contacts with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. And lastly, we're often always taking a second look at our list to see this year the committee had requested 190,000 for the, to go into the open space fund. I think you have 140 in, right? So one of the reasons that we had done that is there's some anticipated acquisitions, and with the, I think it was a little bit unanticipated that we have the Horton parcel and the St. Peter's parcel this year. So that was something that we contributed in, which is a drawdown of the fund of about 230,000. So, anyway, thanks for your consideration and thanks for your time tonight.
Good job.
John, is there a goal in terms of acres? I think you said at this point, open space protects about 25% of the area.
I have to take a look at what our numbers are in the current, do you know what our number is?
I think we're at 26%, but I don't know what the goal is.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I don't know if there is a
What
goal.
did we use before? Is it 35%?
Something thereabouts. The goal in conservation, that was 40%.
Is it 40? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. I haven't looked at it in a while.
Thank you.
But it's not just the percentage, it's also the quality connections for wildlife habitat, that sort of thing.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think what we're looking for is, areas to serve, serve a particular purpose, and it's not really just about the numbers, but,
From the committee's perspective, are the land properties being cared for? Do we have any that are getting overgrown? Or, I know we've made attempts to try to keep down some of the invasive species, but I'm certainly not familiar with all the spaces.
well, it's hard to say. There's probably certainly some that have been acquired over time that we maybe need some evaluation and see what we've got on some of those parcels, but, a lot of times once we've done sort of our duty, then Parks and Rec has really been actively managing it.
We've contracted with a forestry manager for all the town.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And there'll be a presentation coming to you shortly.
Great, thank you.
It's hard to say, for me, this is important for economic development. We have a wonderful open space program. Other towns, a lot of other towns don't even have that. Glastonbury does, but other towns don't have it. It's so important, I think, for Parks and Rec and for our economic development. Just being on it for the last 4 or 5 months, see the hard work that all the committee people put into it. We have identified the committee's identified a 225-acre parcel on Airline Trail, which I won't say is dirt cheap, but it's pretty cheap. It's come down, I think, $500,000, and we'll be applying for a state grant that will take care of about half the cost.
Yeah, it's 60%.
60%, so it'll be $225,000. So that's high quality habitat. It's connected to Airline Trail. It's
Almost a mile of the airline.
and, so in the last, 6 months, I saw bald eagle the other day, fisher cats. We know we have bobcats. We know we have bears now. It's a real benefit, I think, to people.
One of the things that I'm hoping will get discussed, and we now have a forester, which is great for the managing of the biota and the flora along and in the woods and in the wetlands and all. But something else that we have a responsibility to do is also manage the wildlife. Because if you don't manage the wildlife, then you lose control of the other issues that make up the entire ecological system.
Right, and that's also a charge of the Conservation Commission as well, to look at our town lands and those type of issues too. And in the past, we had done, it's been a while, but we had done studies of that type before, like natural resource inventories and things of that sort. Maybe it was something to do for it, because the last one that we had was from the 80s, and we were talking about things like, well, we've noticed a few turkeys coming back in town, things like that, so we don't think the change will do it in terms of the wildlife.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I say, to maintain a good and healthy environment. All aspects of the life in that environment need to be properly managed for the good of all the species.
Right, and actually knowing what we have is important as a start, right?
Yeah.
In some cases we don't have that.
So when you look at the historic funding of this, what was the original, I think talk was the original objective relative to the funding of balance that we would support in this?
Yeah, it's about half a million, I mean,
Which is 300 and something. We haven't funded it. That forward.
no, I think our largest year of funding was, what was it, like $226? Was our highest maybe, over time, and we've probably been down as low as 75
Right.
in a couple of years, so. You know, I think it's been a pretty good bargain for the town. Our average, the cost of the town, our average cost per acre is, and the town pays out is about $4,700 an acre. When you include grants that we receive and all that into those, which is pretty small. I think we, if you're trying to do this in Glastonbury, you'd be looking at much larger sums of money, so.
And that new parcel, right, if we got it and got state grant funding, it would be less than $1,000 an acre, I think.
Yeah,
That's about what
at
it
least
is.
cost of the town,
It's
if
like
we were to get the grant. Which I think the funding bill was fairly likely, because I think the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection will probably consider that to be a pretty important parcel. There's a very good chance, and we have a good grant writer here that seems to be successful, so. Yeah. So we've been through a few things before.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job. I think you earned it for the next few years.
Very good, all right? That's good.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. So next, if we're gonna continue on this agenda, would be some of the miscellaneous general government.
Before we get rolling, does anyone want to verify, do we want to try to establish some sort of a time to be basically done with presentations in the evening or either? What are you looking at for time?
2024 right now.
They want to quarter with that?
It's not to me, it's up to you.
What do we have? We have a presentation?
No.
No, miscellaneous, small.
Small stuff.
We had posted it to 9:30.
Let's see if we can do it. Let's see.
Okay, well, what I would suggest, if you want to go back to that, in your book, under that tab 1, I think it's pertinent. Keeps coming, what the town manager had reduced. I'm sure that, second page on tab 1. And one of those was the open space request.
I looked at this the other day, and my only question on it was we've got a lot of police dollars coming out for various parts of their budget. Are we taking them out and gonna have to cover them later anyways, or are these really legitimate reductions?
For legitimate reductions. Last year, after the budget was passed, the police study task force was formed. And another $54,000 was added in addition to what had already passed, and additional dollars that have been added. Now it's finally been finalized to do one full-time SRO for the elementary schools instead of 4 part-time officers. So those additional dollars are unnecessary.
And then we had a reduction in the state trooper.
Correct.
And then thirdly, in working with Dan, who didn't spend a lot of time in his budget, he gave it 3% across the board. And then we finally had a chance to meet with him and show him what his actual expenditures were. He agreed with the reductions. So it wasn't like we were slashing,
Right, no.
we brought more into what was the actuals. And in order to meet the deadline, which I wouldn't want to be too late either, he added 3% and got it in. And then as we looked at it, we brought it back in and said, he can't, some of the stuff we didn't spend this year, why would we want a 3% for next year? And he agreed.
So we added another officer. That's why.
There's still some stuff in there for that.
There's plenty of money in there for the other officers.
Yeah, there's additional money in there.
And
but
for additional patrols, there's still plenty of money in there.
So,
I just, my concern is that we're taking money out to make it.
It looks that way. I said the same thing when I saw the police.
And, you know, you guys have reviewed it all, and it's appropriate, and I'm fine with that. I just don't want to have to go looking for money later in the year.
so one thing that came out of the safety task force was just how low the crime rate in Hebron is. I mean, we're one of the safest communities, not only in the state, but probably in the country. A criminologist told me that basically he looked at the numbers, and actually he was looking at a cumulative 2-year number, and he said, well, it looks like your crime rate is negligible. So kudos to the police and all that, and it's a great thing about it.
We pay for the school resource officer, and it doesn't come out of Hebron Elementary's budget. From the town part pays for that, out of that budget.
Because under that circumstance, he's a town employee working for a town entity. The Board of Ed, even though they have a separate budget, he's our employee. Where the difference is with you as a regional high school, which is an entity within our town, but it's separate from the town. So we have a memorandum of understanding for that SRO, but for this one, it's servicing the town of Hebron. So he is our employee, so therefore he falls underneath the town's budget.
So they don't have to make any contribution for getting the service.
Not at this time.
Do we provide in-kind service costs to the Board of Education?
That's what it would be.
And we do that.
Well, we haven't had the SRO yet, but
Right.
if we do that, would how it would be reported.
So if those dollars will be reported to the state as school expenditures.
As a service.
Not as, even though they're paid by the town, not as.
Similar to the lawn maintenance, the snow maintenance,
Right.
that will also be another service that will be listed.
Thank you.
And actually, we're also concerned with police chief.
Per statute, if you don't have a police department, it defers to either the first selectman, and this time to the town manager, so it defers to the town manager. So it's by statute only, but signing purposes, raffles, and then for disciplinary action for town employees, but the police, the actual sworn police officers, under a state police contract, he would be their immediate supervisor for those duties. I would enforce personnel policies if there was any type of
But the powers of arrest come from the town, not from the state. We're sworn by the town clerk. It doesn't come from the state, it comes from the town, and that's by state statute. So it's kind of a strange arrangement. What's that?
I said, welcome to Connecticut.
Yeah.
A lot of it's strange.
I mean, kudos to you, Andy, for negotiating the SRO, and I think everybody's happy with both Board of Education, and it seems like taking a controversial, making it.
His start date will be next Monday, and I'm eager for everybody to meet him. I think the press has reached out to him. After we decided to get away from the 4 part-timers because we couldn't get enough applicants, and we all agreed finally to move forward with a full-timer, I think we got a wonderful candidate that's very well qualified, and I think that'll be seen. I know the people that, 2 principals, the superintendent at the time, and the police officer proposed, myself, were all very impressed with the person who's serving presently with the city of town of Weathersfield. in similar capacity where he's in charge of the SRO program. So I think it'll be a good fit for the elementary schools. Look forward for the people meeting him as well.
Well, we have some of the best SROs in the state. Right? It's a tough position. I know it took you a long time to find the right person, but it's in terms of dealing with kids and also with law enforcement. It's a very sensitive and important position.
He has great qualifications, it's a good start.
Does it?
Yeah, and a good reputation.
Great.
Where it comes from.
This is great. I was going to suggest if anybody had any questions or whatever, again, get them into Andy. This being our first glimpse of this, take it home. I expect everybody to look at it until at least midnight tonight.
You gonna check on for again?
I'll call. Everybody's home at midnight. Make sure you did it.
Multiple choices.
If you texted me and I didn't answer. I
I do the
haven't
same
been to like
thing.
one.
I've done the same thing when people would text me weird hours.
Yeah.
I answer them. Great. Okay. Is there anything else as we start perusing this that we should be looking for that would be different in past years? I know you were saying that the software issue is going to be different.
As I said, you'll see the department descriptor in the bottom. Once you start getting into the white tabs of the departments, it'll show you the department descriptors that you're looking at, whether it's public works or fire, or that descriptor will be down in the lower left.
Okay.
It's a good,
Before it was in the upper left,
Right.
now it's in the lower left.
we feel it's a good budget. We worked very, very hard on it. We present it to you, we'll go through it. We'll just give you the information you want, you guys can make the decisions after that. There's some new initiatives in there, with the senior driver. We added some hours for the ambulances, to get the ambulance out of the barn. There was a request from the fire department to add a new fire chief also. We didn't do that yet, we're not quite sure we're there, but we're not saying no, we just want to study it. So we're in the middle of a budget process now, we can only do so much at one time, 3 or 4 meetings a night, you can see. This week, next week, starting to look that way. So we'll get there. Yeah, we
We
meet
are
that.
compiling the historical data for the fire department.
Thank you.
That was selected and requested at their workshop into the 2015 year, so.
So with the new initiatives and the debt, I think that's what the drivers are. You can hear Open Space was looking for more, cut some of that. I mentioned, aligned it with last year. It's a fluid document. We're here to negotiate that stuff. If you want to know where to go down, you can keep adding that stuff.
Right. Well, and this is reality. You know, our responsibilities being the safety, health, and welfare of our citizens, we are obligated to take some of these initial steps, or we feel we're obligated. And there's a price.
I think it's a good budget. I think we all think, on this side of the table, think we did really well this year. So.
I think you do fantastic everything. And again, kudos not only to our staff that are here, but to all of us. You know, we're very, very fortunate in all of the departments to have such good and dedicated and solid employees. So, we're lucky. Okay. Anybody have any last closing?
I move to adjourn at 9:36.
I second